Hi, my name is Pierce, and I'll be going over what I did for my Project 1 in the Software Dev for Real-Time Embedded Systems course. So to start out, I just set up my Uno R3 with my PC and followed the included instructions to get the LED wired up with the breadboard and executed the Blink example project that can be seen here. That just comes with the Arduino IDE if you look in the examples. And it just makes the LED blink on and off. Originally I had a resistor in the breadboard, but the LED was extremely dim. You could not even really tell that it was blinking, so I removed the resistor. Now it's much brighter, but didn't blow it out. Then I really wanted to try working in Rust, so now that I knew everything worked, I looked around for ways to do this and found this crate called AVR HAL. That seems to be basically the standard for working with Arduinos in Rust. It has the same, or at least similar example programs like in the Arduino IDE. So I tested out this Blink one here, and it all works great. And the way it generates projects is set up such that when you run it, it automatically flashes to the board for you. But once I started reading user input from the serial monitor, I started getting problems where the first two characters of input would be read correctly, and the last character would be read correctly, but everything in between would just kind of get lost. And this took a long time to figure out. It was really stumping me, so eventually I just gave up and went back to the Arduino IDE, not using Rust, just this small C or whatever it is, and finished the project here. So you can see in the setup, it just sets up the LED built-in, which is also D13, which is the pin that I have set up to control the LED, and opens the serial connection. Then in the main loop, it just checks for input coming from the serial connection, and if there's anything there, it reads it, looks for the sentinel value, which in this case is just an exclamation point. And if it's there, it clears out any previous user input and stops the blinking. Otherwise, it saves off that user input, whatever the string is, and makes sure it's lowercase to make it easier to match up with the Morse codes. And that's all it really does for that. It sets up some other variables. Then, in round-robin fashion, once that's done, it also does some other work where if we're blinking, it tries to do some blinking work, where it looks at the current state of the variables and compares it to the user input string, and will either blink a dot or a dash, which are configured for either 200 milliseconds for a dot, or I guess it would be 600 for a dash, which can be seen up here, all the defines for the durations. And also up here you can see all the patterns for every letter and number. And that's just defined as an array of enums, and for each one of those there is a code and length, which is a pointer to that array and how many blips, I guess, are in there. So it goes through each code, keeping track of which point in there it is, whether it should be doing a dot or a dash, and then doing a short space afterwards, or a longer space between letters, or an even longer space between words. And once it gets all the way through, where it does one blink every time this main loop runs, and then once it gets all the way through to the end of the string, it does an extra long wait. I think it just does two word space waits, and then starts over. So once I got that working, I kind of turned my attention back to Rust because I still wanted to make this work. And found out that the issue was something to do with the way the serial input is read. I don't know if it's a buffering issue or what, but basically it was fixed when I would make the serial read a blocking read, but to prevent the entire thing from locking up, waiting for input, the very first read is still a non-blocking read, so that it will only start reading user input once something is actually there. And this program here in Rust is essentially the exact same as this Arduino one. The difference is reading the user input is slightly different. The variables have to be passed around more because Rust really doesn't like global variables, at least not mutable global variables. And the codes, I've actually made them different structs where it has the array and the number of, I'm calling them blips, for each letter or number. Other than that, it's the same logic, and maps the input characters to some code, and it goes through and blinks it. So now I will show you how it works. Let me turn on this camera. And if I run this, it'll flash the program onto the card, and you can see it blink when it flashed, and it says hello from Arduino. That is this line right here. And if I give it some input that goes through the serial connection, I could say hello from Pierce and send that over. And now it is blinking the Morse code, and it's also printing some debug information, which is just sending it back through that same serial port. And this is used to confirm that the dots, dashes, and different spaces are as expected. So I'll just let that go for a while, and maybe I should have done a shorter one, but once it gets to the end, we'll see that it does a resetting and goes back to the beginning and starts over. There it is, until I give it the sentinel value, at which point it'll just stop. So now it says received sentinel, and it's no longer flashing. And I can give it another value, say hello, hi, and now it'll just be printing hi, or flashing the Morse code for hi. I can also, without giving it a sentinel, just type in something else. Like there, I just typed hello and send that in, and now it is no longer flashing hi, it is flashing hello, but did not stop. It just changed the string that it's reading. And again, can run send the sentinel value of the exclamation point to stop it. So that's my project one. Thank you for watching.